What's up, everybody? This is Mr. Obvious, and thanks for watching this third installment of the Mr. Obvious podcast. Today we have KULT News with Mike and Stacy. Really good show. Make sure you stay to the end. Some really good content. Just make this intro brief, but just want to thank them dearly for being on. I know this took a little while to get out, but a lot going on. But either way, here it is. Here's a podcast. Thanks again. And as always, like, share, and subscribe.
Tell me, what is KULT News?
All right. Well, first I got to clarify. It is always KULT News, never KULT News. So,
Okay.
So there you go. It's always KULT News, and I'll tell you in a nutshell. Let me give you the nutshell version of this. I was born and raised literally in a religious cult, the most successful religious cult in American history. This may be a turnoff to a few viewers, approximately 1/4% of the population of the world that belongs to this cult. It's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Okay, kind of figured that one out.
So I was born and raised in Mormonism. I went on a little Mormon mission, did the whole spiel. It wasn't until I was in my
on the white shirt.
Yep.
Okay.
It wasn't until I was in my early 30s. I was 33 years old when I realized, frankly, that I had been born and raised in a cult. Mormonism is very, very good at what they do.
Yes.
There's a saying that says, as Scientology is, Mormonism once was.
Okay.
As Mormonism is, Scientology may become. So the Mormon Church has successfully convinced millions of people that they are a mainstream Christian faith. And as a former member of this cult that was born and raised in it, and Stacy was as well. Stacy was actually a convert to Mormonism as an adult for 10 years. It's a cult. So there's no way to sugarcoat it. Mormonism is a cult. So I got out. Stacy got out years later, but I got out and I actually made a documentary, a kind of a documentary short about Mormonism. If you were to go on to YouTube and you type in Behind the Veil Mormon, you would likely find a little documentary I made years ago called Behind the Veil. I actually made a sequel to it as well, Behind the Veil 2.
Cool.
And Stacy was actually in the cult. This is years ago, before we even met. I left the cult. I made this documentary. I posted it online. She saw the documentary, and that was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back for her, as far as realizing she's definitely in a cult. I was gonna say, I started the KULT News thing literally just it was my sharp stick that I was using to poke my former cult with.
Yeah.
So,
I got it. Yeah.
And so I did some little news reports. I would go to conferences where they're having big Mormon gatherings and stand outside, and I'd talk to people and ask them questions. I'd say, hey.
That's the origin of the KULT cult.
Yeah.
That play on the.
So it is always KULT News,
cult.
never Cult News. And I've been a big fan of First Amendment audits for a couple of years. I'd say probably a good full 2 years. And I've been wanting to start a First Amendment audit channel for a while. I've got I think many people have noticed that our audits are different.
They're drastically different. Yeah.
They're different in many ways from your standard First Amendment auditors.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of editing involved. Some of our audits, I have spent literally 10 hours of editing on one little video.
Oh yeah, I know it is. Yeah.
We have multiple camera multiple camera views. If we get we don't always, but sometimes we get body cam footage, 911 calls, things of that nature, and we will add those in if we have them. So, for example, just this past week, this week, we did an audit in Circleville, Ohio.
Okay.
And I'm happy to say Circleville passed with flying colors, and their police dispatch, when we requested the 911 call and the videos, we had that information within minutes.
That's unheard of.
So I sent the communications gal with the Circleville Police Department an email and requesting information. And I'm going to say within 5 minutes, she had the 911 calls to me, 2 911 calls. She had those to us. And 15 minutes later, we had the body cam footage.
That's great. I've never heard of such a thing.
Neither have I. It was fantastic. And for the most part, when we finished dealing with the officer, it was the same police officer. We actually had the police called on us twice while we were in Circleville. And the same police officer responded both times. Seemed like a really nice guy. When we left the scene of the second visit with him, I believe that he passed with flying colors.
Okay.
In hindsight, after watching his body cam footage of him going into one of these banks and having a conversation with the people, he said a couple of things that I think most of our viewers will cringe at and go, "Oh no!" Like, unfortunately, it's perfectly legal for him to take photos.
Oh, the unfortunately part, like.
It's unfortunate that we can take photos in public. That's disturbing.
And he called it weird multiple
times.
He
told the bank manager that it's just really weird.
Really weird.
Here's the funny thing, Evan. The fact of the matter is, I recognize and accept the fact that it's unusual. It is unusual. But keep in mind though that, and I want people to know, especially our haters, to know that there are varying degrees of First Amendment auditors out there. There's a First Amendment auditors that they'll see a couple of cop cars parked in a parking lot talking to each other. They will approach those cop cars and immediately start assailing them with, "What are you losers doing? Why don't you get to work?"
Yep.
I mean, we've all seen guys out there that they instigate.
The baiters.
They instigate, exactly. They're baiters, and they instigate these police officers. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, I don't care what you do for a living. Granted, if you're a police officer, you need to have your emotions in check and understand that you can't let your emotions dictate how you're going to treat people. But they're still human, man. They're still human. And so we just don't do that. We don't taunt police officers. I go on the assumption that every police officer is a good cop until they prove me wrong. And sadly, most of the time, they prove me wrong.
Well, a good point that. So today, again, trying to go home, I roll up. Granted, I'm in my personal vehicle, but I had some things that I identified that I could probably go through this area a little bit better than most people could. And the guy's like, "No, that's not going to happen. The next X, Y, and Z." And so I was like, "Okay, I get it. I know what the situation is. I'm in my personal car." I said, "Look, bro, I'm going to go park. I'm going to go walk over here. I live here. I'm going to walk into my neighborhood." And he's like, "No, you aren't." And I was like, and he's kind of being like, speaking down to me. And I was like, "Okay, not to try to be mean to you, bro, but this can go one of two ways. You can either start treating me like a human," I said, "or I'm going to go back to my car and I'm going to go get my cameras. This is going to go a different way." He's like, "Okay, do whatever you want," basically. So I came back with my cameras. And the first two guys I talked to they were pretty cordial. They were giving me a hard time, don't go past here. And then I gave them the whole, "You don't even have any caution tape up. We're next to a field, right? I can just walk around you, and don't go past me. I am," basically he actually said the words, "I am the yellow tape." And I was like, "Whatever, bro." So I was like, "Okay, I'm going to play it this way. Give me your name, badge number." And I'm not that person. That's not what I do. And that guy did, the other guy did. And so I walked up to the third guy and I was like, "Dude, can I have your name, badge number?" He's like, "Nope." Rolls up his window, and I was like, "Hey, bro, what's up with your partner's problem? You guys were cool about, but this guy's like, fuck you guys." He's like, "Maybe you didn't want to talk to you." And I was like, he clearly rolled up his window.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Just be nice." And I said, "I'm just going to walk around the other block and go to my house. You could just say, 'Hey guys, active shooter, you probably don't want to get killed. Walk around.'"
The sad thing is that a lot of these cops, it's a vicious cycle where they have a bad attitude because people don't like cops, and people don't like cops because they have a bad attitude. So their attitude gets worse, and the disdain for them gets worse, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. So they need to be the bigger people. They need to be professionals. They need to start de-escalating things so that the disdain that the general public has for police officers gets back to where it was, say, in the 1950s, when it's like, yeah, Timmy, if you're ever in trouble, you find a police officer. I would never tell my children in 2023 or my grandchildren, if you need help, you find a police officer and you ask. No, in my experience now, especially living in Ohio, if you have a problem with the police, you are far better off not calling the police 9 times out of 10 than calling them. In Columbus, Ohio, they'll show up at your house. They will insult you. They'll call you names. They will suggest that you're a loser or something or another. That why are you doing?
They'll tell you that you should do their job for them half of the time.
So when I was living in Denver, I was watching the First Amendment audit videos and stuff, and I was enjoying other people's videos. It was primarily, honestly, I did not then, nor do we now, watch a lot of First Amendment auditors. Honestly, for me, for years, well, for at least a year and a half, it was Long Island Audit and Amagansett Press, and that was pretty much it. Occasionally a little Denver Metro audits. Once in a while, the San Joaquin fellow, but for the most part, I pretty much am against the Press and Long Island Audit.
Yeah, they're my two favorite as well. And Dan from Erie County.
But when I moved to Ohio, I dealt with police on 3 separate occasions. Called the police, and the police were absolutely worthless in that situation. I was pissed, and it was the first time dealing with cops in my entire life, and I'm 55 years old.
Wow.
First time in my entire life dealing with cops that I pulled out my cell phone and said, I've got to record this. I cannot believe you just said that. Now, keep in mind, I used to own a bail bond company. I was a bail bondsman and a bounty hunter for years. So to say that I have dealt with the police dozens and dozens, hundreds of times would be an understatement. I've never in my life felt the need to pull out a cell phone and record the behavior of police until I moved to Ohio. So that was because of my activism with the whole Mormon thing. Unfortunately, in the last 20 years, I have been I've been on the receiving end of well over 100 death threats. Well over 100 number, and I can see the number. I will call the police. I'm sorry, somebody just called and threatened to murder me. I'm going to call the police, right? And every single solitary time when I've called the police in the past, they would always, 100% of the time, they would reach out to the person that was threatening me and say, FYI, we are the police. What you're doing is a crime. If you contact him again, you will be charged with harassment. Your calls, your communication, your contact is no longer welcome. Don't do it again. It has been like that 100% of the time in every state I've ever lived in.
So the Buckeye State.
I moved to Ohio, called the police on a blatant death threat from a former landlord who lives in Ohio. And by the way, he's watching. Kim Wynn, hey.
I figured that's what that was for.
So a blatant death threat. And I am explaining to the police, well, I mean, what we really want you guys to do, because they're like, well, what do you want us to do? I'm like, well, we'd like you to contact him. I mean, have his phone number, his name, his address, his place of employment.
Yep.
We want you to just reach out to him and say, hey, listen.
At minimum.
You got to nip this in the bud. Don't do this again, or else.
Isn't this the one where they said, but do you have his date of birth?
Oh yeah, they said literally, well, yeah, what's his date of birth? I said,
I'm not doing the investigation for you.
I have no idea what his date of birth
is. We can't fill anything out for you. We can't do anything if you don't know his date of birth.
Yeah, we can't do anything. If you don't have his date of birth, we can't do anything. I'm like, wait, what? I can, his name, address, phone number,
you want me to
his place of employment, and you can't contact him and say, hey, don't make any more threatening phone calls to Mr. Norton because I'm not providing you with his date of birth. I'm pretty sure you have a computer out in your car. You have a walkie-talkie on your thing there. You could pick it up and say, hey, look up Kim Wynn that lives on, such and such a street. I mean, this is not rocket science.
And then they said you have to call the police where he lives, not where you live.
That's nothing.
Which is not true.
They told me you need to call the police in Dayton where he lives. And I said, It doesn't work that way. I don't call the police where he lives. I call the police where I live.
In my
And
jurisdiction.
then the police where I live reach out to the person that threatened me and says, "Hey, stop doing this." So I said, "So what I want you to do is call the guy." One of the police officers says to me, "Well, I mean, you could do that."
I'm not law enforcement.
What the?
This was a foreshadowing the other encounters we've had with Columbus police since. They want you to do their job for them.
To say that the police in Columbus are worthless would be an understatement. Another broke the camel's back for me. I'm like, Ohio cops, 3 experiences with the cops in Ohio in a matter of a few months, and all 3 of them had me realizing the police in Ohio are just worthless. I mean, they're worthless. And I felt like if you're going to do First Amendment audits, this place is a gold mine, you know?
For sure.
So there you go. And so we started the channel.
All right.
It's much more, now that I've done it with
you get
him.
involved, then that answers that part.
Yeah. Now that I've been out with him, it's just so much. I mean, and I've lived here most of my life, but it's just so much worse than I thought it was. You know, I just never had much of an encounter with police till now. And it's just it's astonishing to me that they twist the truth as much as they do, that other people involved twist it so much and lie about things. And it just really brings home recording is important. I think when you have interaction.
more than ever.
Yeah.
Always record the police. Yeah. Always record the police.
Yeah, and I had a good conversation with somebody today too, and I don't know what your opinion on it is, but I'm very pro police. I'm just very bad policing. I mean, there's a need for authoritative people out there, otherwise society would not do well in general. Like whatever you feel that authority should be is your opinion. But without some sort of authority, there needs to be some sort of hierarchy, right? Obviously, but.
Right. But if there is authority like that, and there probably should be, they need to be held to a very high standard and have really high ethics because they have so much responsibility and power. And we give them that power, they have to have, you know, we have to hold them accountable for ethics. And what we're seeing is they seem to be pretty fast and loose with those.
Exactly. Absolutely, or corrupts absolutely, right? And then that's where you're going to get into your problems. And it kind of goes into the Second Amendment, right? Is why we have to you're allowed to form militias is to make sure that government stays in check, right? You have the free speech to be able to protest against free speech. So,
yep.
You guys, is this what you guys do full time, or you guys happen to be retired and just go out and about from time to time? Like, how does it work for you guys?
It a little bit of both. I used to own a bail bond company in Utah. That was many years ago. I had a partner and got out of that. I mean, I was a UPS driver for 10 years. I've kind of done a lot of things, frankly, as far as employment. I worked for State Farm. I've worked for Pepsi Cola. I've worked for America Online. I've worked for DHL. I've been all over the place. But, we've got plenty of money in the bank. And I'm happy to say that as of right now, this is what we do full time.
And there's nothing wrong with that. So,
yeah.
That's cool. I mean, to be able to at least do, I mean, I'm assuming you enjoy it and you're hopefully making a difference. So
yeah. And by the way, we are engaged, and our plan is to get married when we hit 100,000 subscribers. Now, keep in mind, we started June 30th, and already I haven't looked recently, but we've got I think 23,000 subscribers or something or other. So we're well on the way. We've been doing this for a month and a half, barely over a month and a half, and you got 23,000 subscribers in a month and a half.
You guys are blowing up.
That is a booming success.
Yeah.
Our goal, we do have a goal. We want to hit 100,000 subscribers by January 1st of 2024. We would love to see 200,000 subscribers by January 1st of 2025. After that, I think the sky's the limit. We do believe in quality over quantity. So although we may post fewer videos, fewer audits, I believe between the multiple camera views, police body cam footage, 911 calls, and spending hours and hours editing, a 20 or 30-minute video, I like to think that the quality of our videos we're kind of raising the bar for ourselves, you know, we're saying we're way up here. And
That's our goal anyway.
although
That's what we're
occasionally,
trying to go for.
I have seen audits where they had, you know, body cam footage from a cop, or they had a 911 call. Very, very rarely. I don't know if there are, maybe you know, but I don't know if there are any First Amendment auditors out there that consistently on a regular basis include 911 calls on their audits and include body cam footage from police officers on audits and have multiple camera angles and stuff. Just that alone, I think, makes it a little more interesting to watch, you know?
And Jeff Gray over at Honor Oath, I know he does a lot of FOIAs and gets a lot of stuff. And he's kind of a one-man show, so he kind of gets as much as he can. But yeah, I would definitely agree, because I mean, it is an entertainment platform. So I mean, you have to have that degree. So there has to be some sort of entertainment value behind what you're doing. Otherwise, it's kind of pointless, and nobody's going to catch on to what you're doing, right? So
yeah, it sounds like you're a history buff there, right?
Yes, 100%.
So, I'm a big history buff myself, and so we like to make, and we're going to do more and more of this, make our videos educational. You know, in another life, I would have been a history teacher.
It's funny. That's the same thing with me.
So I want to take some of my love of history and kind of put it into some of the videos, just to give people some educational stuff.
Cool, man, guys. Thanks. Yeah, and I had some things written down. I grabbing what I can, but so you did point out some things. Where you see your channel going in the future. So you have some 6-month goals, some 1-year goals. What's beyond that for you guys? What's sky's? I mean, you said sky's the limit.
I'll tell you.
What's your goal, maybe?
Let me ask you a question. If you had to guesstimate how much money Long Island Audit makes in a year, would you guesstimate? Have you ever done that? Have you ever crunched the numbers as to how much he makes in a year?
If I based it off of other YouTube statistics based off viewership, if you're just going off YouTube ad revenue alone, and probably in the millions.
I don't think it's millions, but I'll tell you my opinion based on just the raw numbers that I see on his channel. I believe a typical video that he puts out, typical audit, he's making, and this does not count merchandise. He's
that's going straight ad revenue.
He's making a couple of grand for every single video he makes.
Yeah.
Okay. A couple thousand.
At least, I would think. Probably.
My goal, honestly, eventually is to be the #1 First Amendment auditor on the internet, and to be as close to being the Mr. Beast of First Amendment auditors as I could possibly be. We want to give money away like it's going out of style. That's what we want to do. That would be fun. If we get to a point where we're making $200, $250, $300, $400,000 per year, I'll tell you right now, we are going to be giving away an awful lot of that money, because nobody needs that kind of money.
So I had I don't know if you guys watched the interview I did with Denver Metro Audits, but that was my first one. Learned a lot by it. I'm not a professional by any standards, but we had a really good discussion about that. You know, is giving back. You know, what if somebody gets in trouble? Do you start a fund to help some people out? You know, I'm not one that I can put myself into a position where I can get arrested on the regular, so I don't make that my goal. But I'd like to support those who do, you know, and maybe someday I would be able to go into those positions, but I personally don't. But I had a really good discussion with him about that. Like, is there a way you can, you know, you can't give back to everybody, right? But you want to give back to those that are actually being a part of the good part of the goal, right? The people who are out there doing it for the right reasons, not they're necessarily just doing it for the clicks and views, but who are there doing it for the right reasons. And, you know, you're always going to get those people who are saying you're taking it, you're going to hoard it for yourself or whatever. But I mean, you do have, in some regards, it's also a business. So you do have to reinvest in yourself, right? To put better content out. You need better cameras. You need better X, whatever it's like. You know? Right. But yeah, I do agree with you. Like today, you know, like somebody said I like to steal everything from everyone, and I was like, that's not necessarily true. I talk to a lot of people before I do a lot of what I do, and I was like, hey, look, just to prove that you're wrong, I said, anybody who gives me a super chat for this particular live stream, and I don't do very many live streams. I was just coming by my house so that every dollar that I make off of super chats is going to go to Denver Metro Audits because he got arrested the other day. I said, and I don't know this man, but if I make $20 or I make 200, he gets it. And the guy's like, oh, whatever.
And a legal fund sounds like a really good idea, or like that would be one great idea for a money.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, we talked about. Legal fund. Like, we get that going.
If we were making a lot of money, if we realistically, if we had 100,000 subscribers, I believe our videos would be getting, virtually every single video we have would be getting 100, 150, 200,000 views minimum. If we get to a point where Long Island Audit is, where we're getting 400,000 views on virtually every single video, we will absolutely, positively be giving back to this community, the 1A community, significantly. When we see somebody like Denver Metro Audits get arrested, you can guarantee we'd be reaching out to him saying, let's talk. Let's get you a good lawyer and let's get this thing taken care of. So our goal is not to get rich. Our goal is to become successful to the point where we can spread the wealth and help other people out. I am happy to say I've been in a situation in my life where I've made a lot of money. And when I did, I was extremely charitable with that money. Always have been, always will be. And that's what we want to do. We want to give back.
Yeah. Questions, nothing huge, but I always like to ask people this because I think it's a stupid term. But what do you think of the term frauditor?
It's clever. It's a clever play on words. I'll give it that.
I do. I like that. Yeah.
I still don't really get how we're committing fraud, but
yeah, that's the funny part, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, you're dealing with people that, I mean, these are people that literally they attack people that stand up for their rights. It's like, I mean, you know what a freedom rider is, right? The freedom riders from 1960s, 1950s, 60s. Okay, it'd be like attacking one of the freedom riders and you're black. It's like, wait, what the hell? Do you not know what these people did for you? So these idiots out there that have a YouTube channel and they attack people who vigorously defend their First Amendment rights. It just blows my mind. And I think the only thing I can think of is that, I was saying earlier that you got some really good auditors, you got some really bad auditors, and there's plenty in the middle. Maybe these people just watched a few of the bad auditors and they're like, oh, this guy's a scumbag. Listen, I've seen auditors personally. I'm not going to name names because I've seen auditors literally go up to two police officers sitting in a parking lot talking to each other, and they pulled up and they said, what are you guys wasting tax dollars for? It's like, wait a second, I'm sorry. Are you under the impression that because two police officers are having a conversation, they're just screwing around and milking the system? You don't know what they're talking about. They could be talking 10 million. That's like if you see a couple of nurses in a hospital and they're standing there chit-chatting. Are they wasting money? You don't know what they're talking about. So these idiots, these legit frauditors that just go out there baiting people, taunting people, poking them with a sharp stick until they get a reaction out of them. Those are, in my opinion, those are the true frauditors. They're just taunting people to get a reaction. Yep. You don't see it. We don't show up at a bank or a city hall or whatever, plant ourselves there in one spot for 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes. Eventually it's a little weird. Now, can you? Sure. Can you go into City Hall and sit there and just plant a camera there and just record for an hour and a half? I mean, you can.
And to be clear, we would defend your right
to
do so
you can.
All day long.
You can, but it's just like...
Should you?
I mean, it's just because it's legal doesn't mean that it's something you should do. Did you ever watch Lost, the TV show?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite shows.
Mine too. You got John Locke. One of the famous John Locke's lines is, "Don't tell me what I can't do." Had that man that approached me, who was very nice, had he approached me and said, "Hey, you just walk through that room. Do not walk back through that room. You can't record those kids." Had he done that, with my personality, the chances that I would have walked back in that room and aimed the camera at all those kids just skyrocketed because the man just told me, you can't do this. Do not tell me what I can't do. When I know legally I can do it, approach me with kindness and say, listen, would you mind? I know you can record in here. Would you consider not recording here? These juvenile offenders, and I mean, classy approach, and I immediately respected it. And I'm like, I got you, brother. Don't worry about it.
That makes sense.
So that's kindness works, and everybody should learn that. Not just the people that we encounter when we're out doing first and other audits, but the auditors themselves need to understand kindness works. I have an attitude of, I will give what I get. Yep. If you're respectful to me, I will be respectful back to you. And a good example of this is the Department of Public Safety or something or another. We walked into a building, and a gentleman in a uniform, a police officer, approached me and said, what are you doing? Can I help you? And no, thank you. I don't need any help. Boom, that's one. Just a minute or so later, he asked me again, how can I help you? And I very politely, I don't need any help. Thank you very much. Two, you ask me a third time, I'm going to start getting pissy with you. Okay, what part of I don't need your help you do not understand? Now you're just annoying me. Get out of my face. Seriously. So when I raised 3 kids, okay, I didn't give my children 3 warnings before I'd start getting pissy. So why should I give a grown-ass adult that has a gun on his hip 3 warnings?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't. Yeah, can I help you? No, thank you. I'm very polite. No, thank you. I'm good. Don't ask me again and again and again, because then I'm going to start getting pissy.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Hey, got a couple more. Have you ever run into anybody out auditing in the auditing community doing the same thing you're doing out in the world? Have you met anybody else? If so, how'd that go? If you haven't,
to the best of our knowledge, no. Keep in mind, though, relatively new. I mean, we just started this June 30th, so we've been doing this for less than 2 months. Just today, actually, where were we today? We were in Akron, Ohio today. And just today, for the first time so far, we had a police officer that immediately said, I know who you are. I've seen your videos, and the funny thing was, he was standing. This is a police officer that's standing next to a woman that was just trying to basically have us trespass from a very public building. Here's the funny thing: it's a privately owned building, but there's a U.S. Congresswoman that has her offices in this building, which basically just turned their private building into a public building.
Yeah, exactly. Interesting.
So we walk in there, and
it's a weird situation because of that. It's like I don't know that I've ever seen so much government embedded with so much private.
Yeah,
it really was. There was private and public in the same building.
It was City Hall and then Fifth Third Bank.
Yeah, how do they enforce moving from one place to another?
Yeah, so this gal's busting my chops, telling me that, you can't be in here, and she's telling me that I have to leave, and I'm like, the hell I do? There's a U.S. Congresswoman right there. Her office is right there. Don't tell me this is private property and then throw a congressman's office in the building. It doesn't work that way, sister. So I dared her to trespass me. I'm like, I dare you to trespass. It's not going to work, sister. So just scram. So she got put in her place real quick. But it was funny to have the police officer show up and literally say, I know you. I've seen your videos.
Do you think it was being sincere or just making it up?
Oh no! I think he knew exactly who we were. He didn't come right out and say KULT News, but he seemed quite adamant that he has indeed seen our videos. In fact, I posted on Instagram. If you go to Instagram at KULT News USA, you see a little itty bitty tiny sneak peek of that little meme I made of this police officer saying point blank, "I know who you are."
Oh, cool. I'll have to look at that.
And one of our very first audits we did was in Athens, Ohio, and we had a guy pull up at the end. He didn't recognize us or know us because we hadn't posted any footage yet. But he pulled up and he said, Are you are you a First Amendment auditor? And we're like, yeah. And he goes, I love you guys. I mean, we had not posted a single solitary video online. He just saw two people walking out of a post office with cameras and had to stop and shake our hands and say how much he appreciated what we were doing and stuff. And I get it, because I've watched Amagansett Press and Long Island Audit and these other guys, and I have personally commented on their videos numerous times over the years. Thank you for your service, because they are indeed providing a valuable service.
Yeah.
If we do not exercise, like Jason Gutterman says,
You don't exercise your rights.
rights are like muscles. If you do not exercise them, you will lose them.
Yeah. All right. Hey, one other question for your better half. What's your part in the channel? What do you do for Mike here?
Typically what I do is I'm sort of undercover. I'll either go in ahead of him or afterwards and just be sort of an innocent bystander. And then I usually have a hidden camera, or mostly hidden, or, hidden in plain sight sometimes. But, and I mean, there's a couple different reasons. We want different angles,
Yeah, there you go.
setting the scene and seeing where Mike is in the scene. And also just for backup, if someone assaults him and his camera doesn't get the angle quite right, or I should have the angle that we need, and just to be there as a witness.
The Board of Education video, there's some great footage that Stacy took of that. Like when the man was coming at me, he's like, I'll tell your camera up. I'll tell your camera up. I'll tell your camera up. The angle you see is Stacy's angle. She's sitting on the couch. They don't realize that she's with me. So she's sitting there on the couch with her little hidden camera aimed over here as this guy's charging at me, telling me he's going to bust my property. So she's gotten some beautiful footage.
Nice.
And virtually every single video we put out, you'll see all of a sudden it's my point of view, and then all of a sudden, bam, it's to the side, and you see me in the shot. And you're like, wait, what the what? That's Stacy doing that. Stacy also does a lot of our planning, where she figures out where we're going to go. Stacy does a lot of the FOIA requests. She does a lot of the 911 calls and the body cam footage and stuff like that. So I although I'm kind of the face of KULT News, because I'm the one that's there at the front, our channel would absolutely positively not be a success, and certainly not be where we are right now if it wasn't for the invaluable contributions of Stacy.
Where do I send the check to pay you for all that?
I could not do what we do by myself. Absolutely not.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. Like,
I will say, to add to that, we do have plans at some time in the future to put me in the main auditor role, just to see how are they going to treat me as a female versus him, and just to see if
that's a
there's
great perspective.
Yeah, just to see, are they going to be easier on me or try to push me around more? It's just an interesting question that we have about that.
And I'm very much looking
thing.
forward. I'm very much looking forward to being the innocent bystander who just happens to be sitting in the lobby at the same time as this crazy lady with the cameras walks in. Because I'll have, keep in mind, I used to be a private investigator. So not only was I a bail bondsman and a bounty hunter, but I was a private investigator. Like, geez, when was that? That was in the early 90s, I'm going to say, 92, 93. I was a private investigator for several years. And I'll bet you I have, I'm going to say 15 cameras, and probably 10 of those are cameras that are extremely small, like pinhole cameras, like, ballpoint pin. I think I have 7 of those ballpoint pin cameras. It looks like a fountain pen or something.
Yeah, I've seen them.
And it's a functional pin, but it's also a camera. And honestly, when I was exposing the Mormon church and the Mormon cult and all that, some of my best footage I recorded was with a pin camera that cost me $17.
That's impressive.
I found a sale on Amazon one time for these spy camera, spy pin cameras, $17. I bought a dozen of them. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, cool, guys. Well, like I said, I probably had a lot more to talk about, but circumstances today, it's how it is what it is. So I just want to thank you guys for coming on. I didn't realize you guys had only been doing this for a short period of time, at least for the YouTube channel.
Less than 2 months. Less than 2 months.
I figured you guys have been around for
Really
years.
enjoying it.
So I commend you on your work. You're doing a great job. You're doing a great part of the community. So keep that up. So.
Well, Evan, we appreciate your help. And may I just throw out one last thing? I think we all know who John Felix is, right?
I've heard the name.
We are very grateful to John Felix. It's not spelled F-E-L-E-X. I forget F-E-L-I. It's spelled weird, but it's pronounced, I believe, John Felix. He was the very first person that I can think of, that I'm aware of, that saw our Athens, Ohio post office audit, thought it was phenomenal, loved the microphone pull and all that, and he promoted us, and we are very grateful to John Felix for putting us on blast and making the 1A community aware of our existence, and we very much look forward to paying it forward and helping new First Amendment auditors that come out there. As our platform grows, it gives us a bigger soapbox, and we're going to use that soapbox to help out other First Amendment auditors to get a bigger soapbox. And we will certainly be making a contribution to Denver Metro Audits and help them out with this. We saw the video.
Yeah.
That's what we wanted. We wanted you to make all of your mistakes with Denver Metro Audits, and now you've honed your craft. You come over here and take care of us.
I'm not a professional by any means. I'm a professional in what I do in my profession, but not this.
For Denver Metro Audits, by the way, I am from Denver. I attended Alameda Junior High School. I attended Maury Junior High School in downtown Denver, and I attended Columbine High School in Littleton. So I am very much from Denver, and so that one hits a little close to home. It really does. I saw it, and he needs some support. So if I could say one thing, it would be this. Number one, for us, if you want to support us, we're not asking for money. We're simply asking for people to subscribe, like, and share.
That's it.
But if we are going to ask for money, I would say take that money that you would send to us and send it to Denver Metro Audits right now to help him build a legal defense fund to deal with this charge that he got recently.
Anyways, I'm just doing this bad. I'm Mr. Obvious. Thanks for joining me, guys. Again, this is KULT News joining me here today. I'm going to have to voice over some of this because the dogs are barking, but thanks for joining me this evening. It was great having you guys on there.
Thank you.
Just killing it.
All right.
Anyway,
Cheers, Evan. Appreciate you.
I'll talk to you guys soon. You guys have a wonderful evening.